welcome to this episode of Fret Dojo Live. It's fantastic to have so many people checking us out today for today's live stream. So, this went out far and wide, and a warm welcome to everyone on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere like that. What we're going to do today in this session is to look at a bit of harmonic analysis, where we're going to cover how to understand jazz in terms of functional harmony. Now, I know that might sound a little bit kind of maybe a little bit too cerebral for making music, but this really is one of the keys to mastering jazz, especially if you kind of haven't grown up listening to jazz your whole life. This is a bit of a shortcut to understanding the relationships in the harmony. And so this song that we're going to look at today, Yesterdays, is one of the best examples of a standard that sort of moves through a variety of keys and some common jazz progressions. So once again, a warm welcome to everyone. So make sure wherever you're listening from or watching in the chat, make sure you type in the chat where you're from and maybe how long you've been playing guitar for. It'd be great to hear from you. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go to my screen now, and we're going to check out the chord changes to Yesterdays, and so let's have a look at that now. So this is the first time we're using this live platform, so just bear with me. Hope this works. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so this is Yesterdays by music by Jerome Kern. And so what I might do actually throughout this is play little segments of a Wes Montgomery recording that is a fantastic example of these changes. Okay, so the first thing we should look at with these changes is that don't be put off by all these strange symbols. If you can start to decode what these numbers and these slashes and all that sort of mean, then you'll see that really harmony can be a lot more simple than what sometimes is made out to be. So why don't we listen to a little segment of the tune now. I'm just bear with me, I'm just going to have to bring up one of the recordings of this. So I'll just... can you guys hear that okay? Yep, cool. Okay, so we're going to listen to a little bit more of that tune as we go through this session. Now, we're going to have to unpack quite a lot here because the changes that we're looking at, you need to understand basically the real foundations. So for those of you that are completely new to jazz harmony, I think we need to do a little bit of prep work here. So let's do that on my screen now. So we're going to zoom out for a moment. So let's see if I can do this. Oh, here we go. I'm going to move over here. All right. Now let's look at the key that this song is in. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to give you a shortcut here. The key of this song is in the key of D minor. Now let me show you the notes that are in this key of D minor. We have D, E, F, G, A, B flat. Now be careful here. If you know the key of D minor, you'll know that there's one flat in the key signature, and this is this B flat note. However, when we're building harmony in a minor key, typically you don't use the natural minor scale, you use the harmonic minor scale. So you actually need a C sharp here to really do this properly. Okay, so these are the scale notes. I haven't written these out in terms of what's on the stave, but these are the notes that are in the key of D minor. Let's have a listen to those now. We've got... and then finally finishing on the D, but the D is what we played at the start, so we don't really need to play that again. So this is a 7-note scale, okay? Now, chords are built from scales, okay, by stacking notes on top of these scale notes. These scale notes become the root notes of the chord, okay? Now, each of these chords that we're going to build on these scale degrees, we're just going to give them a number, and it's very simple. We're going to give it number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. Now, typically when you do jazz harmony, you don't actually use like these kind of numerals, you use Roman numerals for that instead. So let's do that instead. Maybe I'll use a different color here. Here we go. So we're going to use Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, okay, I know a few of you guys that have done jazz for a while, they'll see this and go, what is going on here? You are completely off the mark. Bear with me, Ryan, I know you're backstage just kind of scratching your head right now, but trust me, this will all make sense. So, if we look at, I'm going to give you a bit of a shortcut here. If we look at the chords, the jazz chords that can be built from this scale, we're going to, I'm going to identify these now on these notes. So D, in the key of D, the first one will be D minor 7, and the lowercase m is for minor, excuse my handwriting. And now, then we have, on the E, we've got a minor 7 flat 5. And then for the F, we would have an F major 7. I'm going to use a triangle for major. For the G, we'll have G minor 7, isn't it? And then A, we'll have A minor 7. Well, actually, not really. Because we've got that C sharp in the scale, that's not correct. It's actually A7. Okay, so we've got A7, a dominant chord. And then we've got B flat, which would be B flat major 7. And then finally this one, this will end up being a diminished 7 chord. Okay, so here's a little tip, guys. I'm going to, maybe, let's try this. I'll do a close-up of my guitar here. One second. I'll just better move this thing out of the way. Okay, so if you go here, check out my guitar now. We can play the notes in, we can play the chords that I just wrote out on this screen, and you can actually instantly make some pretty cool sounding songs. So check this out. So you see, like, if you play with these chords in any particular order, it can actually sound really cool. So there's a little bit of an aside for today. I know you feel like, hey, we're here to analyze yesterday's, but I needed to cover this first, right? Because if you don't know what the chords are in a key, how can you analyze? So now, if we go down to these Roman numerals, these actually are not correct right now, okay? Now, the reason being is that the Roman numerals need a little bit more identification for this to make sense. So here's the rule when you're analyzing jazz, is that when you have a minor chord or a minor 7 flat 5 or a diminished, you typically use lowercase, okay? Use lowercase Roman numerals. If you have a major 7 chord or a major chord or a dominant chord, you use capital Roman numerals, okay? And typically you also add the kind of the quality of the chord after the Roman numerals. So I'm going to do this correctly now. So here we go. This would be 1 minor 7. This would be 2. I'm going to use a shorthand here, which is half diminished. It's a bit of an older way of saying minor 7 flat 5. And then the 3 would be a capital because this is a major 7. And then the 4 chord would be a minor 7. The 5 would be a 7. Now, in the 5 chord would actually, typically in jazz, right, even though it's not explicit in when I'm building these chords here, you will often see a flat 9 or something like that added in a minor key to a dominant chord. That's a good little marker for oh yeah, this is probably going to turn around to a minor sound. Okay, so you'll often see that, and we'll actually see that in this chart today. Now the 6 chord will be a major chord, so this is a 6, major 7, and then the diminished will be a lowercase 7, diminished 7. Okay, so that's how we come to this kind of analysis. We're looking at the degrees of the root notes compared to the scale. we're looking at the quality of the chord, whether it's upper major or minor, so forth, and you can see that easily through the lowercase or uppercase Roman numerals, and then the extensions on the chords, which is put afterwards. Okay, so that's a little nicely. If you come away with one thing today, I think that's a very useful kind of analysis of chords in a minor key, as typically applied to jazz songs. So now, let's go back and check out what's going on in yesterday's. So I'm going to zoom out here. Here we go. Everything's so new today, guys. It's a little bit more pro than last week, I hope. We had a few issues last time. Okay, so now yesterday's. Now let's check out what's going on. I might just play on my guitar what's the sound of these chords when we're getting started. Okay, so let's go here. So we got. Okay, so we got D minor, E minor 7, A7, and then it just repeats again. D minor, E minor 7 flat 5, A7. So in the chat, as I start writing this out, brownie points to who can tell me what we're dealing with at this point in the progression. What type of jazz chord progression is it? Okay, so I know there's a little bit of a lag between when I say that and when you guys are going to write in the chat, so I'm going to wait for just a moment. Maybe I'll change my camera while I do that. Okay, anyone? Feels a bit like Ferris Bueller right now. Okay, so anyway, all right. No one's quite sure. I'm going to give you the answer. So this is D minor. This is the 1 chord. Remember, this is the first chord in the key of D minor. So we are in the key, K for key, equals D minor. And this is the 1 minor. Now it's not a minor 7 as is in this chart. However, it's often played as a minor 7. Okay, so for you more advanced guys, it's okay if you want to play a minor 7 here. Sometimes you'll see a minor 6 here, but this is a 1 minor chord. And then we've got the 2 chord here. I won't bother writing this out because it's already there. The 5 chord. And then we've got a 1 chord again. So we can see here at this point, we have a 2, 5, 1 progression. Okay? 2, 5, 1. The most important progression in jazz. That's because kind of like, it's such a typical movement of chords where you can feel like the 1 chord is rest, the 2 chord is has a little bit of building tension, the 5 chord has a lot of tension and it wants to move, and then it rests back to 1. So this is the core of Western music, this kind of dichotomy between tension and release. The 1 chord is the release, the stable, the home. The 2 is getting a little bit tense, the 5 is getting very tense, and then it returns to 1, which is stable. And this happens twice. We can see that we have yet another. Let's do this here. So we've got another. I better just check the chat here. Oh yeah, sorry. My chat didn't auto scroll, but yeah, Paul, Andy, you guys are all correct. Paul was very excited. He had to let me know a few times there, so well done, Paul. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. It's a 2-5-1, and then we have another 2-5-1 here. So this is 2-5-1. Okay. So this is so there's nothing that special at the moment going on in the music. Okay. Now we're going to loop back to Wes Montgomery's version of the recording, which is a little bit different at this point. We might do that towards the end. But as you typically see it in a fake book, this is how you'd see this chart done. Now I shouldn't say it's not special because it's actually very beautiful. This kind of melody, you know, like so. You can almost hear it singing yesterdays. It's actually like, it's obvious that would be the words of the song at that point. Okay, so that's what's happening in this first part of the music. Now I love this second part. It's and this is why, you know, when you see devices like this, you could potentially use these for your own songs. Okay, so let's go to the next line now. Whoops. All right, so now we have, it looks like kind of just a scale, right, in the melody. It's going like this. Okay, so can you see here how the scale is moving up in the melody? Let's just highlight that. So it's kind of going up in this direction. But now let's look at the chords. So be careful here, guys. When you see a D minor / C sharp, it does not mean you can play either a D minor chord or a C sharp chord. Now, I actually saw that written in a theory book once, that you can do that. You can play, but that's actually not correct. You need to have, what this actually means is you play a D minor chord with a C sharp in the bass. So this is called a slash chord, okay? So it's really like, obviously if you're playing in a guitar duo, you could probably, put that in the bass, if you're playing. But this is really a symbol for a bass player to take note of, okay? So the bass guitarist or the bass player would start to move from the D root to the C sharp, and then here would go to the C here. So you can see that there's this bass note movement. Now, in terms of the actual harmony, it's not that interesting at this point. We just really have a D minor chord, just D minor, D minor, D minor, but the bass movement is what makes it interesting at this point. Now, this is really clever writing. The melody goes up, ascends, so like this. There we go. And then the bass is going down. And see, it keeps going down. The next chord is a B minor 7, so it ends up on a B. Okay? So the melody is going up and the bass is going down. Okay? So this counterpoint of motion, that's what's creating the interest at the moment. So interest in songs doesn't always come from clever chord progressions. It actually comes from the bass root movement. Okay? Now, a lot of film scoring, a lot of film scoring actually has that, has these techniques. Instead of using conventional progressions like 2/5s and all that sort of thing, they're actually playing with bass note movement and intervals in the bass to make the interest in the song. So you'll see that a lot in jazz standards as well. Okay, so why don't we keep listening to the song now? So actually, why don't we go back to the start and I'll just sort of highlight where we're up to. Okay, so just so you can get a sense of what it sounds like in your ears. So that's that 2/5. And then, did you hear that? Awesome. Okay. What we're going to talk about briefly now is how to improvise over this first section of the chart. Now, I would say using like blues sounds is very effective for this opening. You know, when you got a minor 2/5 progression like this, you can use like just simple blues phrases. You might know that from like other styles of music you're playing, you know, not just jazz, you know. Okay, cool. So that's one thing that you can do there. Maybe I'll show you what that sounds like. I'm going to go to a backing track now. Let's see what it sounds like to play blues over these changes at the start. Okay, so if I keep playing blues, it won't sound good though. Listen to this. Ooh. Nah, it doesn't sound right. Okay, so at this point, if you ever find yourself doing that and all of a sudden something that you find was sounding really good and then it sounds bad, it probably means that the song has changed key. Now, this is one of the real challenges for jazz, is because with jazz music, it's not like a rock song where you can literally just solo over like a pentatonic scale for the whole changes and it usually sounds fine for a lot of songs. Jazz is different. It can have a lot of key changes, and this one's a bit of a doozy. Okay, so let's go back to let's see. To here now. And let's look at the next part of the chart. All right. So we have B minor 7 flat 5 and we've got E7. So you might find you can sort of still play a blues a little bit here, but then it starts to go a bit pear-shaped after that. Okay, so B minor 7 flat 5 E7. Any ideas from the chat as to what this progression is? You should start to see a bit of a pattern here. I'll just start to write it out as I keeping my eyes closely on the chat. Okay, so no one's sure about this one. Okay, this is actually a 2-5-1. Well, a 2-5 anyway. So this is a 2 chord and this is a 5 chord. But it's not a 2. Yeah, good, Andy. That's right, a 2-5. It's not in the key of D minor though, because the key of D minor, the 2-5 is E minor 7 flat 5 A7, whereas this one is B minor 7 flat 5 and E7. So the key of this one is, what could it be? Andy? You seem to be on top of this stuff. Anyway, I'll give the answer. It's actually the key of A. Okay. Now it could be the key of A minor. Okay. 2-5 of 5. Yeah, you can think of it as a 2-5 of 5, but does that help you in soloing? Some people would argue it would. You know what I mean? I find I just feel like I'm in the key of A at this point, or I'm moving towards some key of A. It could be A major and it could be A minor, but I'm feeling more of an A minor kind of sound at this point in the progression. Okay, so this is like when we've got this. So it sounds quite tense to me, and especially because of that minor 7 flat 5. Now, there's a whole bunch of ways to skin a cat here, but I would say, you know, using a sort of a minor line. See that sort of sound? You know, like how I'm sort of feeling like I'm going to minor. But this is the problem, right? You got to gauge this carefully, because when we're playing this 2-5 here and then moving down to this chord, this is not A minor, okay? This is yet another 5 chord, okay? You see how this is a chord, and 5 dominant chords or 7 chords like this, they want to move to the next chord, okay? So it's not like the song is finished at A minor. It actually never went to A minor. It's a 2-5 of A minor, but now it's gone to another key. So this is the key. Now so just bear with me, guys. This is where things might get a little bit complex. This is the key of D. Okay, so we're playing the 5 chord of D now. So yeah, you could technically, as Andy kind of mentioned in the chat, as Andy mentioned, you could potentially analyze this in terms of the functional relationship in the key of D minor. But I just find I'm not really doing that when I'm thinking of this chart. I'm moving more from key to key, like bouncing off one key to another. Now, this is where I should introduce a concept that may be familiar to all of you that has studied music for a little while, but we're going to use it in a different way. Okay, so let's zoom out here, because this could give the answer of what's going on in the progression at this point. Let's move over to this screen here. And a special thanks to Musical U for this diagram I'm using today. The circle of fifths. Okay. So, the circle of fifths is typically used to demonstrate for beginners in music how to kind of remember what sharps and flats belong to each key. Okay, you know. But if I go round the circle of fifths, it doesn't sound that good. Okay, I'm going to go in the clockwise direction. Okay, so I'm going to go start from C, and then G. It sounds more like a sort of progressive rock song or something. And then G flat, like that. That kind of, it sounds cool, but it doesn't sound like a conventional music pattern. Whereas if you go in the opposite direction, listen to what it sounds like. So that sort of sound like I was putting some jazz chords on there, but you can see how there's that nice smooth root movement when I actually go anti-clockwise. over this. So when I see this kind of chart, when I'm thinking of progressions, I'm thinking of this way. So I'm not really thinking of the circle of fifths. I'm actually thinking in the circle of fourths. Because if you, like, the distance from G to D is a fifth. If you go backwards, G to C is a 4. Okay, it's a perfect fourth. So now let's have a look at yesterday's again, and let's see if we can see a bit of a pattern here. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's start from this B. Okay, let's highlight each of these. So, okay, so we've got a B in the bass here. Then we've got an E in the bass here. We've got an A in the bass here. We've got a D, and etc. Now let's go back to our chart here. I'll just zoom out a bit. Okay, so let's start from the B in the circle of fourths. Okay, check this out. We've got B. Oop. B. The next one, we've got E. The next one, we've got A. The next one, we've got D. You see the pattern? G is here. The next one is C. Now, it's still C there, but then it goes to F. And then we've got B flat. And in this version of the chart, we've got E flat after that. So check that out. We've nearly covered the whole circle of fifths. Like if we kept going, only 3 more, we would have covered all 12 rounds of the circle of fourths, I should say. So what's going on? This is why improvisers love this song, okay? Because it gives you a lot of opportunity to target this movement from key to key and chord to chord, using like sort of, and it's okay to use lines and phrases to kind of get a sense of that. So, using 2-5-1 lines to kind of, but then you don't resolve it and you go to the next line, sort of thing. So why don't we see what Wes does over this section of the chart, actually. This is really interesting. So I'm going to pull up that recording of Wes once again. So let's do that now. Where's he gone? Come on, Wes. Okay. So I'll just fast forward it a bit to his solo. Okay. So some nice bluesy stuff. Yeah, so Andy, back cycling, listen. How cool is that? And that was such a simple line. So so this is like So it's simple, you know, like Wes wasn't doing anything particularly complicated there, but what he was doing was emphasizing that back cycling movement of the that root 4 progression movement going around the circle of fourths there. So it's, yeah, really cool. And I actually might show a few of these octave lines that Wes does in the next session, I think. I think we might do a session next time on octaves playing. So look out for that. So that's pretty much what's going on there. Now, in terms of how to actually solo over this, because like knowledge is one thing, but actually application is another, right? So what you can do is like kind of 2-5. If we, instead of doing octaves like that, I'll just go to my other camera here. We could go to more, if you use kind of like lines and things like that. If I go from the B minor 7 flat 5, maybe I'll just expand my camera a bit so you can see a bit better. So from B minor 7, and then that's the E, A, and then C minor, D flat, and then we're out of the whole cycle. Okay, so that sounded a bit more like classical, but I was trying to show you the kind of the progression of the chords from chord to chord there. Okay, so that you can use 2-5-1 lines, and we've got for those of you that just joined up to our membership community, you should have access to a whole bunch of 2-5-1 lines that you can incorporate into your playing, and we'll feature a few of these on this channel as well. Okay, cool. So we're nearly there through this adventure on yesterday's, but there's just 2 more chords that we need to cover. Okay, so let's look at that now. I'll just go back to this. All right, so 2 more chords are left. This E minor 7 flat 5 and A7. It's got an interesting extension there, but don't worry too much about that. It's basically just another 2-5 in the key of D minor. Okay, so I'll use blue pen. Okay, 2-5. And then the chart then cycles back if people want to take solos and stuff. It'll be back to the 1 chord there. Okay, but this is a really nice exit that the composer has done here, at least on this chart. Okay, so we can see, once again, this chromatic root movement is used. This E flat. Now, if he kept going through this cycle, he would have gone to A flat and D flat and all that sort of stuff, but he needed to get out of it. He needed to finish the song, otherwise it would have gone on forever. So you can see that there's this E flat in the root there, ascending to E minor 7 flat 5. Now, if you look at my guitar here, E flat major 7, look at E minor 7 flat 5, there's only 1 note different. So that's a really nice smooth progression that kind of lands him out of the back cycling circle of fourths movement, and then, you know, quickly finishes the song so that people can start again, and then it goes around again. Okay, so this kind of back cycling, this is very common in jazz. What you've seen here, like Rhythm Changes, is a song that uses this kind of back cycling movement in jazz. If you guys are familiar with that chart, it's featured in a lot of different songs. So it's a really good progression to master this, and it's a great way to practice all your 2-5-1 lines, because you know, it just gives you an opportunity to work it out over a whole bunch of keys, but still being in the context of an actual song that sounds good. You know, so one thing I should mention about the opening, because we have been looking at Wes Montgomery's version here, let's just listen one more time to the opening and try to listen carefully to what the bass player or the organ player is doing in the bass at the start. Okay, so let's listen to that now. Okay, so this is a case where they're not actually following this chart, interestingly. Now, you would probably need to negotiate this with the band when you, if you're going to play this probably, because what's happening here, and this is often what Wes does on these standard charts, is they do nice little quirks to make it a little bit more less conventional. Okay, so what's happening here is Wes actually plays, or the band plays, an E flat. Sounds like an E flat 9 chord to me there. And then it goes back to D minor there, and then E flat again. Okay? Now, everything will probably still work. You can still play blues over this and all that sort of thing if you happen to be playing a version of this with E flat at those points, but it goes like D minor, E flat 9, D minor, E flat 9, and then the rest of the chart is very similar. Okay, so this is really interesting. What's happening here is that there is a relationship between A7 and E flat 7. So this is like E flat 9 is basically just E flat 7 with a little color note on it. Okay, so we've got an interesting connection here where these 2 chords are a tritone apart. Okay, so this is what we call a tritone substitution. It's a little bit more advanced for those of you guys that are brand new to jazz. But a tritone is basically a sharp, a fourth that's been bumped up by 1 note. It's called a augmented fourth or a sharp 4. So things that are an augmented fourth apart from each other, that are dominant chords, can be substituted for each other. And this is one of the key jazz sounds. Okay, let's listen to it once again. And it does sound it makes it sound much more hip than the normal version. Okay, so let's listen to that one more time. So it's got that bit of that sort of cool, smooth movement there in the harmony, and that's being produced by that tritone substitution sound. Again, maybe we can go through that a little bit more in more detail later on in future sessions on this channel. But there you have it. So there's an analysis of yesterday's by Jerome Kern. But just a few more things before we wrap up. And in kind of conjunction with these new YouTube lives that we've been doing, we're actually offering free community access to the FretDojo Academy at the moment. You just need to go to FretDojo.com/gift. And for those of you that aren't already a member of our community, you can join up there and you can discuss this content with the rest of the community there. It's a fantastic community. We've got a whole heap of interest already. So FretDojo.com/gift. And so if you go there, you'll be able to sign up for absolutely free and check out samples of our courses. And also you get access to this massive 251, well, not just 251, but a massive jazz lick database full of interesting lines and phrases. So, so that's just been added to the chat there if you guys want to check that out. One other thing, for those that are VIP members, we will be doing a live Q&A after this session. So that will be shared in the community now. So if Ryan, if you could do that, share the link to our VIP only Q&A session. And for VIP members, I'll just show you some... I'll just go to our site now so you can see some of the upcoming events that we have on the site. One moment. Okay, I'll just pull that up here. Okay, so if we go to our upcoming events. So this is the session I did today, but we do have the amazing Davey Mooney, fabulous player and educator who's going to be talking about improvising in positions, and that's a live workshop just for VIP members. And then we have, so I'll be doing these sessions on this song for a few more weeks. And then on the 11th of April, VIP members session, Rodney Jones, who is the head of guitar at Juilliard School. And we had the great pleasure of interviewing him on a podcast that's going to be released very soon for you guys. But he's agreed to do a live workshop, which we're really excited about. And so make sure those of you in the VIP membership, you check that out. If you are interested in becoming a VIP member, let us know. There's an opportunity to join up and access all this amazing content. All right, guys. Well, it's been fabulous having you today on today's session. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this today. If you enjoyed this, it's a bit of a new thing that we're doing, but you know, it's I really enjoy getting on live and connecting with people. So I think it's a great chance to bring our amazing international jazz guitar community together. So I hope you enjoyed today. So Tranquilla says, let's see what Tranquilla said here. So thanks, Tranquilla. This little lesson helped clear something up that I was not getting. Appreciate it. Oh, it's a pleasure. Hope you come along to the next one, Tranquilla. And what does Andy say here? Andy says, thanks, Greg. Cool lesson. So great. Really glad you enjoyed this today, Andy. So thanks for coming along today. So check us out, same time, same place, at least in Australian time next week. Maybe click the notify button so you're on our YouTube channel so you're informed when our next streams come up. And next week I'll be talking about the amazing octaves technique of Wes Montgomery. We'll have some awesome lines and phrases for you to try out there. So make sure you check out that. So come back next week and we'll do that then. So thank you, everyone. We're going to end the broadcast today. And for VIP members, very shortly, I'll be firing up the Zoom so that we can do a members-only Q&A session then. Okay, thanks, everyone. Take care, and that'll wrap it up for today. And for more jazz guitar lessons, tips, and free stuff, visit www.FretDojo.com.